to get started? All right, let me see. What number are we on? I think 101. Yep, 101. Okay. Yeah. Good morning, 101.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming back. Were you able to abide by my instructions during the recess? You didn't do any independent research or look up anything or watch news?
Okay, I have to confess, I fell asleep on the couch, and when I woke up, the news was on.
Okay,
But I didn't learn anything new.
okay. Did you see
They had a little blurb.
okay,
But that's-
but you turned it off pretty quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, ah.
Okay, fell asleep on the couch, huh? None of
I
us
was
can
trying
relate
to catch
that.
Sean White, but he didn't meddle anyway, so.
It was a long day yesterday and another long day today, and I get it. Okay, well, thank you for telling me that, and but other than that, you didn't, nothing else. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and I do need to tell everyone that I forgot to tell you guys this yesterday about the lawyers. They're all under strict rules governing the Florida bar that they cannot have any interaction with any prospective or jurors outside the courtroom. So should you encounter them anywhere in the hallways or anything, they're not going to talk to you. They probably won't even look at you. And if you ask them something like, where's the elevator, they're going to probably briskly walk the other way. So they're definitely not unfriendly fellas. They're all nice guys, but they do follow the rules. So don't take any offense to that. Also, the reason we have you here today is I want to find out what you know about the case, when you learned about it, and if you have any opinions about it, if you formed an opinion. So first of all, do you remember when you first learned about this case?
When it happened, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, back in 2014. That was 8 years ago. Is that when you first remember hearing about it? And did you hear about it, to your recollection, on the TV news or friends and family, or how'd you hear about it?
Probably the TV.
Okay. And were you employed at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you typically have news on at work, or would you have seen it when you got home?
At home.
Okay. And was this a topic of discussion in your family or co-workers or anything at any point that you remember?
Not a lot. Not that I remember.
Okay. Maybe a little bit, you all, discussing, wow, it was right here in our hometown.
Yes.
And a little surprise about that. Anything about the details of the facts of the case that might have been a topic of discussion? Some folks were, like on the social media, a lot of people were back and forth. Did you engage in any of that?
No.
Okay.
Don't care for that stuff.
Okay. And as far as any discussions with family members or coworkers, do you remember talking about the case with anyone?
A little bit, but just you get inundated with that stuff, and I tend to take everything I see on the news with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Because I don't feel like the media upholds their, I don't know what you call it, oath to be truthful, like they used to, like when I was a little kid. So
yeah, it is a different world. Okay, so can you tell me, so more recently, okay, you saw a blurb on TV last night. Have you seen any more of that recently? It has been on the news a bit.
I quit watching the news with the COVID thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty common theme. Okay. Then when you saw it early on, back when it happened, do you remember if you saw in the news coverage, some coverage was showing a little video of the events that happened inside the movie theater? Do you remember seeing that video?
I remember seeing a very unclear video that didn't really show much of anything.
Okay. Now, I know you don't have much independent recollection of all the details and facts, and I gave you a few details yesterday, but if you were chosen as a juror in this cause, would you, and I'll instruct you that you would have to base your verdict on only the information that you hear in this courtroom, on only the information that's given to you through the evidence and argument and law. Would you be able to set aside anything that you knew previously? I mean, I know you can't unremember it, but at least set it aside and not consider that in reaching your verdict.
I believe so.
You'd be able to do that? Pretty sure, or?
Yeah, I think so, because like I said, I take what I see on the news with a grain of salt.
Okay. All right. So I think the lawyers will probably have a few more questions for you. I'll turn it over to them. Thank you.
No question.
All right.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning.
Good morning.
I noticed from your questionnaire that you've been a juror before
Yes.
in a criminal case.
I served on the grand jury in Hillsborough County.
All right, so then, because you looked very at ease at having the judge and everybody asking you questions in kind of an isolated situation.
I'm also a teacher, so.
Okay, well, you're usually the one asking questions. And so, we're asking questions. The reason I'm asking questions is, of course, I have an obligation to defend the accused. In this case, it's Mr. Curtis Reeves. And part of my obligation entails, in this particular case, because there has been pre-trial publicity, as we call it, stories on the news for 8 years. And so you're here to individually, so that we can talk about what it is you know, whether you formed any opinions, all that sort of thing. And one of the ways to do that is, because it's been so long, is to ask you details to see if maybe we can draw some other things out. One of the things you told the judge was that you did hear talk about it. You're a teacher in Hillsborough County?
Yes.
All right. And were you working in Hillsborough County back then when this all happened?
Yes.
And so you said you may have heard something from coworkers. And do you remember what it was? Can you think?
I don't remember any real specific things. I think people just pretty much repeat what they see on the news, and then I tend to just shut it out, because there's no credibility there to me.
Okay. And I know what you're saying. We both went to school about the same time, maybe a little before you, but and we learned that journalism was what, when, and where it would, not what might happen, what should happen. Right. Okay, I understand that. But nonetheless, this was kind of a very kind of a unique event. Would you agree with that?
I would.
Okay. And so that's why I'm asking if maybe somebody said something to you that made you at least have thoughts about what may have happened and whether it was right or wrong or any of that sort of stuff.
Again, it's really hard to pinpoint those details from so long ago, because I don't know. I just can't think of anything that would make me sway one way or the other.
Okay. And when obviously yesterday you knew that you were on that case that you heard about 8 years ago, right?
Well, I knew when she said so. And she gave me more details than I knew previously, so.
And so when you went back home last night before you fell asleep on the couch, or maybe during your sleep, did you think of anything regarding this case or the surroundings or any of that sort of thing?
Not too much. My brother stays with me, and I told him I can't talk about it, and he was trying to get me to tell him, and I was like, sorry, not going to happen.
Now, I know what you told the judge is that you think you can separate what you heard on the news and from the evidence you see in court. Does that mean you can't do it, or you won't do it, or you're not sure if you can do it or not?
I'm sorry, can you
It's all
repeat the
right.
question?
I know, that was a crazy question. All right. I think what you told the judge is when she asked you, can you separate what you learned from the news, separate that from what you hear or learn in court?
I think so.
Okay, and that's the answer you gave. And so my question is, in the criminal realm, criminal law, one of the things with jurors, we have to know if they can do it or not. Think so is kind of one of those in between
So you want a
dangerous
definite,
areas.
you want a definitive answer?
Well, it's, lawyers like to say, well, if you get on a plane and a pilot's there, and you say, hey, this is a big one, you think you can land this thing? He goes, yeah, I think so. You know what I mean? So it's not, and because somebody's life's on the line, essentially, that's why I'm kind of pressing you for a yes or no answer. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay, because it sounds to me, agree or disagree with me, that you don't really know a whole lot of details about this.
Not too much.
Is it fair to say that let me ask you, have you formed an opinion at all as to what happened in that place?
I've thought about it a little bit, but it's as far as whether there's guilt on the part of the accused or if the other party was guilty, I'd have to hear it. I'd have to hear all the details before I form an opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Any motions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Number 101, I'm going to let you go back towards the jury pool room. I'd hoped we'd be done with this part by now, but it's going to be a little while. I called a bunch more in at 9. Haven't seen them yet either. We're going to bring everybody back in when we get done with this. We got a few more to go, as you probably saw when you were back there. And once I finish with those, everybody's going to come back in. So, mill about. You could probably run an errand real quick, but just, be in the general vicinity for a while until we call you back, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Uh, 102. Good morning, 102. Good morning. Thanks for coming back. Were you able to abide by my instructions during the recess? You didn't do any independent research or watch the news or anything?
Right.
Okay, good, thanks. The other thing I wanted to mention is that you're liable to encounter the lawyers outside the courtroom at some point, and I failed to mention yesterday that they are under strict rules governing the Florida Bar to not have any communication or interaction with a prospective juror or a juror outside the courtroom. So if you encounter them and, they don't even look at you or acknowledge you or walk the other way, they are simply following the rules. They're not unfriendly. They're all a friendly bunch, but the rules are very, very strict about that. And, there's lawyers everywhere around the courthouse, and we, if I were to see one of the lawyers talking to you, say you asked him, where's the elevator, I wouldn't know what you were talking about, but I'd see, this and that's bad. So they're not even gonna let that appearance happen. So don't take any offense. They're nice guys. All right. The reason I'm calling you in here again is individually, we need to know a little bit about what you know about the case, how you heard about it, when you heard about it, and whether or not you formed an opinion about what happened here. So first of all, when did you become aware of this case?
When it happened.
Okay, back in 2014?
Yes.
Did you see it on the TV news or social media, or how'd you hear about it?
TV news.
Okay. And were you at work when you saw the TV news, or home, or do you remember?
I was at home.
Okay. And after you saw it on the TV news, did this become a topic of discussion in your family or coworkers at all?
Yes, I talked about it with my brother.
Okay. And was that primarily back then when it first happened, or
Yes.
have you followed the case throughout the years at all?
No.
And have you seen anything in the media, any media, recently in the last few weeks?
Yes, it was Monday. I had the news on, and they had mentioned that it was getting ready to start trial or whatever.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay, and have you, tell me a little bit, I know I told you some about little details about the case yesterday to refresh everybody's memory. Tell me what you know about the case.
I just know that there was an altercation in the movie theater. Popcorn was thrown, and then shots rang out. That's pretty much all I know.
Okay, and you said you talked to your brother about it back then. Do you have an opinion about the events in this case? Mr. Reeves is here on trial. Did you form an opinion at any point about whether what he did was right or wrong?
Yes, I did.
And what is that opinion?
That Mr. Reeves was guilty.
Okay, and that is that something that you've discussed some amongst, like, with your brother, or have you gone on social media at all, discussing that? Like, a lot of times there's the comments and everybody saying their feelings. Have you done any of that?
No.
So this, do you have a pretty strong opinion on this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And in the event that you were chosen for as a juror in this case, and I would instruct you that the only thing that you can use to consider your verdict is what you hear here in the courtroom, only the information here, and you'd have to set aside any thoughts or feelings or anything that you thought you knew about the case. Do you think you'd be able to do that?
It would be hard.
Okay, all right, and I appreciate that. That's the exact sort of thing that we need to know. Any motions?
I will make a motion.
All right, anybody want to inquire?
No.
Okay. Because of, your exposure to the media and whatnot, I think this case probably isn't the right match for you. But you've done your jury duty for a year now, so maybe in a year we'll get you back and have a case that you can sit on. But we're going to go ahead and let you go for today, and you're excused, so you can do any research or do anything you want at this point. But I want to thank you sincerely from all of us for enduring all day yesterday and then again this morning. I really appreciate that, like you don't even know. So
No, absolutely. It was my honor.
Okay, well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
You're free to go, and you can do whatever you want.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Sure. Good morning again, 103.
Morning.
Thanks for coming back.
You're welcome.
Were you able to abide by my instructions during the recess? You didn't do any independent research or anything like that?
No, ma'am, I did not. However, I did hear from my manager, Denise,
Yeah.
and she told me that she cannot afford to lose me for 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, so it's going to be a significant hardship on you?
Not on me, on her.
Well,
Short-staffed.
okay, well, if you had to be here, do you think you'd be able to give the trial your undivided attention, or would you be worried about, how you're going to leave your coworkers?
Oh, boy, that's a tough one. Yeah, I could give my undivided attention here, but I'm also concerned because they're running shorthanded as it is because of COVID.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, well, I guess maybe the lawyers will follow up a little bit on that, and we'll see how it works out, okay? Now, another thing about the lawyers, housekeeping matter real quick, they are under strict rules that govern the Florida bar not to have any interaction with any prospective juror or juror outside the courtroom. So, if they encounter you outside, they're gonna not even look at you pretty much. And should you ask them a question like, where's the elevator? They'll probably turn and walk the other way quickly without speaking. So don't think badly of them. They're all nice fellas, but they do strictly follow the rules. So don't give that any thought. Now, what we brought you back here today was to see what you know about this case and find out when you found out about it and if you have a strong opinion about it, and maybe a couple other things that the lawyers are going to get into. So when did you find out about this case?
I remember when it happened.
When it happened? Okay, back in 2014. And
honestly, I'd kind of forgotten about it until I heard on the news last week that this trial was coming up.
Okay. And so when you heard it let's go back to when you first heard about it. How did you hear about it first when it happened? Did you see it on the TV news?
Yes.
Okay. And were you at home when you watched the TV news and saw it? And at that time, after hearing about it on the news, did you... did it become a topic of discussion amongst your family members or co-workers or anything?
No, not really.
And a lot of people say not really. Did you, maybe a little bit at the time about, wow, this happened? And
I was living with my sister at the time, and we talked about it because she's been to that theater. I never have myself.
Okay, so that's kind of hit close to home for her.
But co-workers, no, we never discussed it.
Okay, and so how much of the case do you know? Do you think you know? What kind of details do you know?
Just what I heard on TV. There was an argument about the gentleman in front of him, texting messages or something or other, and he asked him to stop, so he could watch the previews, I guess it was, and he wouldn't. And then he got up and left, and then came back in. Then that's when things escalated.
Okay, and escalated how?
I think there was some words, and then like something thrown, like popcorn perhaps, and then that's when the shooting took place.
Okay, and knowing that little bit of background, have you formed an opinion about that, about how the events happened? Like Mr. Reeves is here on trial. Did you form an opinion about whether he was right or wrong?
No, I haven't.
Okay, and when you saw the TV news way back when, or even earlier this week, or more recently, did you see in any of the coverage showing of a little video clip of the events inside the movie theater?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you did see that. And having seen that, does that make you, do you have an opinion? Did you form an opinion at all about
No,
that?
not yet.
Okay. And if I were to tell you, if you were chosen as a juror and I instructed you that the only things that you can consider in coming to your verdict would be information that you got here in this courtroom, and you had to disregard anything else that you had heard or seen, would you be able to follow that instruction?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the lawyers, and we'll go from there.
None at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, Juror 103.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about a few things that I think are important. And I want you to understand that what we're trying to do, I know that it's difficult 8 years ago, right? For me to start asking you questions about what you remember in particular. But I want you to help me out here.
Sure.
And try to think back as critically as you can. For all those little tiny bits and pieces, even if you think that those bits and pieces may not be important, I want to know what they are.
Okay.
And the reason being is that, as the court has instructed you, it's very important for me, representing Mr. Reeves, that I know all of the details that you know, and that we're able to discuss here, so that we can determine whether those details in any way could affect you, one way or the other. We're human beings, right?
Yes, sir.
And sometimes things that we hear and see and experience, they affect us. And sometimes we don't have total control over that, right?
Yes, sir.
We would like as human beings to say, well, we have control over everything, but that's just not reality, right?
No, it's not.
Okay. And so you heard about this, you think, the first time or saw it on TV.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about news stations first. Are you that kind of person that you are watching the news on a routine basis at a certain time?
When I get up for work, I turn on Channel 13 News and watch that while I'm getting ready for work, have my breakfast, and getting dressed.
Okay.
And that's
Very
it.
similar to me. So you're watching news in the morning to see what's happening in that day, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you also come back in the afternoon, 6 o'clock, and say, well, if you get home at 6, and say, I'm going to watch the news and see what's happened, since this morning, since I had my breakfast?
No, not unless there's a hurricane headed our way. Then I'll watch the news.
We all have to watch it all the time.
But
right?
other than that, no. The only time I watch the news is in the mornings.
So not even at night?
No, sir.
Okay. What do you do for a living?
At the moment, I'm the dispatcher, PBX operator at Advent Health Dade City.
Tell me what that means.
That means I sit in an office and I answer all the phone calls that come into the Dade City and the Zephyr Hills Hospital and try and decipher where they want to get their calls transferred to or answer questions.
Okay. Let me ask you, have you ever used the word skycop before?
Yes, that's actually my email, Skycop95.
Can you tell me why the term skycop?
When I was in the Air Force, I was a security policeman. And one time when I was out living in Germany, stationed in Germany, I went to Munich, and at the same time I ran into a couple of maintenance guys there. And he looked over at us, there was a bunch of us there, and he said, hey, look, there's the Sky Cops.
And so you've kind of embraced the
Yeah,
name?
that was back in 1979. And then long before email became popular, but then when it did become available, I said, hey, that was called Sky Cop one time. I got out of service in 95, so Sky Cop 95.
And so throughout your career, have you had somewhat of a desire to be a police officer?
I did when I was in the Air Force, but then when I retired, I was 37 years old. so that was a little too late to become an officer. So after I got out, I went to Bloomington, Illinois, and I worked at State Farm's corporate headquarters. Did some security there and a little bit of transportation. Then things took a bad turn down here with my mom and dad, so I moved down here to take care of them. And I've been here since 2001, coming up on 21 years.
So even though you were not able to, because of your age at that time, to sign up to be a police officer, to at least apply, right?
Yes.
You still gravitated to that field of security.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And would you say that coincided with the fact that you were going to use as part of your email the term Sky Cop?
No, I mean, because security was something that I knew from the Air Force. So my first job was here in Florida was in the security department at Zephyr Hills Hospital.
So, do you know how did you first meet Denise Reeves?
It's been a little over a year probably when she became our manager.
And did you know her background?
I just heard a little bit, but we've never really sat down and talked about her background.
What did you hear about her background?
That she has extensive knowledge in law enforcement, sheriff's department, concealed carry. I think she was a trainer at one time even.
Who told you that she had that extensive knowledge?
Probably one of the guys that I worked with.
Who was that?
I think his name was Paul.
Is he also in that line of work, the security,
Yes.
former law enforcement?
Yes, he's been law enforcement.
How many individuals there within your department would you say are either prior law enforcement or security of some sort?
I think Paul is probably the only one with law enforcement. There's several of them that have security experience at different places.
Okay. And so you viewed, at least you were telling us that you've been told that Denise Wiegand had this experience in law enforcement. Is that correct?
Yes.
And she's your boss?
Yes, she's our manager now.
And she can hire and fire you?
Yes, she can.
Okay. And I would imagine that if you were to have her come over here and sit in this seat here and testify, and me as a defense attorney would be pretty hard on her and grill her on her work, not only of her, but of her unit. You know, she worked for the Pasco Sheriff's Department, right?
Yes, sir.
And if I was to grill her, would you feel a little bit uncomfortable?
I don't think I would. I know she's a tough lady. She can handle it.
Well, but my question is not whether she can handle it,
If I can
whether
handle it.
you would feel somewhat uncomfortable, you believing that somehow she's got all this experience, and now you're going to have to judge her, your boss, when me, defense attorney, is grilling her concerning her investigation, her unit's investigation that was flawed. How would you feel at that moment? Do you think that the fact that you had this relationship with her, the fact that you've had these conversations with others about her, that it was somehow, again, we're human, somehow cause you to have some hesitation?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? What does that mean? When you don't think so means that, to me, that you are not sure.
I would like to hear. I would be very interested in what she had to say, but I would take it.
Why would you be interested in what she had to say?
Well,
In particular?
apparently she was there, or investigated somehow, some way, investigated the incident.
Has she ever spoken to you about this case at all?
No, sir, not at all.
You had,
Until I heard her name mentioned yesterday. I had no idea she was involved in any way, shape, or form.
okay. Let's talk a little bit about what you heard, okay?
Sure.
So you hear it on the news. You think it was in the morning when you normally see the news?
Yes, probably the day after the incident.
Okay, and at the time, who were you living with?
My sister.
Your sister. Okay, and so when you heard it on the news, did you have a conversation with your sister?
Just the fact that we've liked to shop. Had to go. She's no longer with us. But we shopped over at the Grove. But she's been to that theater. She had been to that theater a few times, and I never have. So that's all we talked about.
Well, did you talk to her about what your feelings were at that point in time? Because you certainly had some facts. I jotted these facts down as you were saying them. That you knew that there was a argument, correct?
Yes, sir.
That there was some disagreement over texting.
Yes, sir.
That someone asked that person to stop texting.
Mm-hmm.
That person left and came back, meaning the individual that had asked to have the gentleman stop texting left and came back.
Yes.
And that the argument escalated. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that something was thrown, and you believe that it was popcorn.
I believe so.
And why do you believe it was popcorn?
Well, just the little clip that I saw, I thought I saw little pieces of popcorn go flying around.
That's why I wanted to make sure that I asked that question, is because of the video clip. So when you were looking at the video clip, tell me what it is that you were able to see within that video clip. You say you saw popcorn.
Yes, it was very dark. I could see Mr. Reeves in the back on the left hand side.
So you could recognize Mr. Reeves from the video clip.
I couldn't really tell it was him. I couldn't see any face or anything like that.
You just saw a gentleman.
I just saw a gentleman stand up, and two people in front of him, a male and a female.
So you saw Mr. Reeves stand up?
Yes.
And what did Mr. Reeves allegedly do when he stood up?
I think looked like they had some words. Then the popcorn got thrown at them, and then pulled out a weapon, and you could see a couple of shots get fired.
Okay, so this is where we go back to the human element of this whole thing. Not only are you hearing reports from the news concerning this incident, but now you're actually seeing what is purported to be the incident itself, right? And so that's a bit more impactful, I would say, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so there's no right or wrong answer here. What we want is just the cold truth, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the fact that not only have you heard it on the news, but now you're also seeing a video that you're trying to interpret there at your home, do you think that fact would play some role in your thought process as to what happened?
I would hope not, but like you said, we're all human, and it probably would.
And I appreciate your honesty. It's not easy for people to come in here and from their heart, tell us, how they feel. And so I appreciate that you're honest.
Thank you.
No further questions. We would move.
You want to approach? You want to talk about it, or? Okay. Mr. Klein, all things being equal, 97, 103. Sorry.
103.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead. Sounds like you're needed at work. And I do appreciate you coming and being here and enduring the last yesterday and today. We're going to go ahead and excuse you and let you get back to work.
Okay, I'm
Maybe-
sorry it ended up this way. I really am.
Yeah, that's okay. It happens, and your jury service is satisfied for at least a year, but maybe next year when you get your summons, you'll show up and we'll put you to work, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, 103. Take
You're very
care. You're
welcome.
free to go.
You don't have to keep up with them anymore.
Now you can do any research you want or not. So, thanks.
I will definitely pay attention.
Indeed, I bet.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, take care. Thanks. I'm going to put the seating chart away. That's where the names are. I've got my numbers here. All right. I know. Isn't that the truth? Who's next? 105. All right.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, 105.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming back today. Were you able to abide by my instructions during the recess? You didn't do any independent research or watch the news or anything?
Nope.
All right, thank you. The reason, oh yeah, and I got to remind you about the lawyers. If you encounter the lawyers outside of the courtroom, they're not allowed to talk to you. They're under strict rules governing the Florida bar that they can't interact with you or any prospective juror or juror outside this courtroom. So if they avoid you or don't look at you, they're not being unfriendly. They're all nice guys. You know, they're following the rules. So don't think anything of it. Okay. Also, the reason I brought you in here is we want to talk a little bit about what you know about the case. You know, what you've heard, when you heard it, and whether or not you've formed an opinion about the case. So, when did you first hear about this case?
Well, I moved to Florida in September of 2014. So it was around that time I was trying to get acclimated and watch the news shows, and that was one of the news clips that I saw was about this case.
Okay. So, did that have an impact on you? Did was it a topic of discussion in your family or coworkers at that time?
No. The only opinion I was thinking at the time was in New Jersey, some of the laws are more strict than they are down here. So that was the only opinion I had was, of course, of the laws with, firearms and all.
Okay, meaning having a firearm in the theater?
Yeah, exactly. That's unheard of in New Jersey. So
Okay.
that was something different that, occurred.
Surprised you a bit?
Surprised me, yes.
Okay. What exactly, okay, so since then, have you seen it on the news more recently or throughout the years?
Not really, no. I haven't really seen.
And have you followed it? Did you do much research or chatting about it?
No.
Okay, and can you tell me a little bit about what you do know about the case, some of the details? Just tell me what you think happened.
As far as I recall, the defendant, he is a former officer, or a retired officer, I should say. And that I think that had to do with talking in the theater, and I think he felt, I guess, harm was was coming his way, and that's why, and I believe there was an object thrown at him, and he felt fear and discharged his firearm.
Okay. Now, having that basis, have you formed an opinion about Mr. Reeves, who's on trial here, about his actions that day? Do you feel whether he's right or wrong, or?
It's very hard to say when you're in that type of position. But I do feel that if he was a former officer of the law, that he, would have a little bit more, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Resistance to firing or discharging a weapon. That would be my opinion, would be that there would be some kind of resistance in doing such an act.
Okay. And so if you were chosen as a juror and I instruct you that in order to come to your verdict, you have to set aside any of your feelings or opinions that you previously held or currently hold, and consider only the information that you receive here in the courtroom, would you be able to follow that instruction?
Yes.
All right. Let's see. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the lawyers.
No questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Michaels?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I will tell you you're not being singled out, but you kind of are, right? Here you are in front of us. The reason we're talking to you is because you raised your hand because you heard something about the case prior to the case.
Yes.
Which is unusual, generally speaking, in trials, because, these courts are full with people every single day. Trials happen all during the week that we never heard of. Me as a defense attorney, I've never heard of them, so certainly you probably never heard of them, right? Mm-hmm. Unless it's on the news or affected somebody that you know personally. When you got down here from New Jersey, is that where you're from?
Yes.
In 2014, you said you heard it on the news?
Yes.
Do you know what channel you were?
I only listened to two, and that would be Channel 9 on Spectrum and or Channel 13 Fox.
And do you watch any national news?
Sometimes, not often. It's usually early in the morning. I'll watch the news early in the morning, local news, and in the evening, maybe a little CNN or something, because I work in financial services. So.
Okay. And so, in this case, there was a video that was shown on the news. Do you remember that at all?
No, I do not. I do recall not so much what the victim looked like or any of that. I don't recall. I do recall the defendants.
Okay. I'm asking you not because I'm trying to interrogate you, but just because by asking questions about something that happened years ago, sometimes it helps you to remember things.
Yes.
And so you said that you knew that Mr. Reeves was a retired police officer. Tell me how you knew that.
Through the news.
Did you have any details in terms of his service with the police department?
No. I just recall that in Tampa.
What about the individual who was shot? Any details about that person?
No.
Did you ever see pictures of him or his wife or any family members?
Not the shooting victim. No.
Did you ever see anything on Facebook or any kind of social media regarding this case?
No.
And so in the 8 years since this happened, you haven't run across any news stories?
I can't recall any. I don't know if there was maybe a blip or something, but not anything recent. I haven't had any recent anything recently heard about this case at all. But I do, of course, like I said, recalled it because of the year it happened and the timing and because I just moved down here.
And you said one of the impressions you had, or one of the reactions you had, is when you heard about this, is that the laws in New Jersey are stricter.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, for example, my husband, he does, have a license for his firearm, and when you get it in New Jersey, you have to wait several months. You have to go through fingerprinting. You have to go through the whole ordeal of trying to obtain the license for a firearm. And so when we moved down here, it was, I don't know, a few days. And it was just that it took him, and a carry permit, for example, it's unheard of in New Jersey. There is really nobody really gets a carry permit, so to speak, in New Jersey, and nobody I've ever seen carried a weapon.
Okay. And is that concerning to you, that in Florida it's different?
A bit, because, it seems like, if you drive down the highway and you accidentally cut somebody off, or, if something should happen in a negative way, who's to say that that person doesn't have a firearm and do something, out of ordinary and harm somebody or myself.
And I'm asking these questions because I'm a criminal defense attorney. As a criminal defense attorney, not only am I defending Curtis Reeves, but essentially I'm defending our Constitution.
Oh, absolutely.
So that means I'm defending your rights.
Your Honor, I object to this formal question. It's proper.
You want to approach or move on?
I'll just move on, Judge. So the long and the short of it is, the punchline is that I'm not asking you these questions because I'm trying to get an answer out of you or I'm interrogating you. I'm answering these questions because, frankly, I have a duty to do that.
Absolutely.
Because I have to make sure the best I can. It's always hard to tell what's in someone's heart. And it's hard for somebody who doesn't know me and is in this situation. I mean, you're in a chair with a light and there are two people with probably with firearms, or there's a judge. It's not easy. And so I try to see what's in your heart. And so in this particular case, because of that issue with the guns and, what you see as being so readily available in Florida and the potential for harm, is that going to put you in a position where you can't fairly make a decision in this case? In other words, is your mind so prejudiced that maybe you're not the right juror for a gun case because of the way this happened?
Well, look, let me put it to you this way. I mean, we have firearms in my household, and and I'm not against that. And I'm not against defending your property and yourself. I'm completely not against that when it comes to firearms. I'm just more against the fact of how easily, or how I guess how there's more cases I've seen down here than I have when I was in New Jersey as firearm I guess cases come up.
Okay. And I know you said something about, and I wasn't sure what you meant by it. You said that you talked about, you knew Mr. Reeves was a retired law enforcement officer, and something about something about restraint. Can you explain, what did you mean by that?
Well, I feel that, if you're an officer, you're taught how to, I guess, ease confrontation and without discharging your weapon. And that's something that I believe, most officers are taught how to try to, I guess, the words don't come to me right now, but basically trying to ease a confrontation without having to pull out a weapon.
Okay. And because in this case, obviously, a firearm was used and fired, is that something going into this that you're going to be holding against Mr. Reeves?
No, because in all beliefs, I believe he felt that he was in fear of his life at that moment. But then again, I really don't know. I really, you would have to be in his shoes or in, the people that were in that theater's shoes to know what exactly transpired and why he did what he did.
Okay. And I know you told the judge that although you have an opinion, it's not so fixed that you can't consider all the evidence in court and just consider what you hear here. Is that fair to say?
That is fair, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any motions? Thank you. Defense?
No motion.
All right. 105, if you would, just head back to the jury pool room and hang out. We're going to be a while yet, and you can actually share that information if you talk with any other jurors that it's going to be a little while. We still got probably a handful to go individually like yours, so I had hoped to get started a lot sooner with the whole bunch of you back, but it's going to take us a little while. So just hang out around the jury pool room until I call you back or have further instructions, okay?
Yes.
And remember my instructions, no
Absolutely.
research, no talking about the case and all that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. .107. Good night. Yeah. The chart? All right. Good morning, 107.
Good morning, Your Honor.
You can be seated. Thank you. And thank you for returning today. I really appreciate that. Were you able to abide by my instructions during the recess? You didn't do any independent research or watch the news or anything?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. And, and one other thing I wanted to discuss, I should have told you guys yesterday, but I forgot. The lawyers here are all under strict rules governing the Florida bar regarding interaction with prospective jurors or jurors, which means that they cannot have any interaction whatsoever with the juror outside of the courtroom. So should you encounter any of them, they will probably pretend like they don't even see you, and they won't talk to you. Even if you ask them, like, where's the elevator, they'll turn and walk the other way. They are not unfriendly fellows. They're all a good bunch, nice guys, but they do follow the rules, and that's one of them. So if anything like that happens, don't put any significance on that. They're not being rude. They're just following the rules.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay, so the reason we brought you back here today is so we could find out a little bit more about what you know about the case, how you heard about it, when you heard about it, and if you formed any opinions about the case. So can you tell me how you first heard about this case?
It was on the news, watching the news on the television, and also reading it on social media.
Okay, and was that back when it first happened in 2014 or periodically throughout the years?
Both, Your Honor.
Okay, and have you heard or seen it on the news or social media very recently in the last few weeks?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and I know it's been out there because of this upcoming trial. So have you, obviously Mr. Reeves is here on trial today. Have you formed any fixed opinions about what happened in the case, or do you have any strong feelings either way about the events?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and can you tell me how you feel about that?
Based on my own reading of the news articles and watching the theater video and so forth, I believe Captain Reeves was defending himself at the time.
Okay, all right. And if I told you that in coming to your verdict, if you were chosen as a juror and coming to your verdict, you had to disregard anything that you read or heard or seen about the case and any opinions that you formed. You'd have to set those aside and use only the information that you got here in the courtroom. Do you think you'd be able to do that?
I think that would be difficult, Your Honor.
Okay, it sounds like it might, and through no fault of your own, obviously, you had no idea that you'd be here. I think I appreciate your candor. Does either side wish to have any inquiry? Okay. All things being equal, 107, you're probably not the perfect guy to have on this jury because of your knowledge of what happened, and unfortunately that's how it works. But the good news is you had to endure all day yesterday and this morning, so you've done your jury service. You're good for at least a year, but hopefully if you get called a year from now, we'll be able to put you to work, okay? But we're going to go ahead and excuse you from today. You're excused. You can go ahead and go, and you can research, or you could even come and watch the trial if you want, but you're free to go. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and attention.
And I understand you have to go back to the jury pool room and get some stuff, correct? Correct. Okay.
Thank you, 107.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Take care. Next. Huh? Good. Is that it? 3? I have 4. Did you have 1? See, good morning, 108. Thank you for returning again today. Were you able to abide by my instructions during the recess?
Yes.
You didn't do any independent research or talk about the case or watch the news?
No.
Good, thank you. I got a real quick housekeeping matter that I should have told you yesterday about the lawyers. The lawyers are under very strict rules governing the Florida bar, not to have any interaction with you or any prospective juror or a juror at any time outside the courtroom. So if you encounter any of them at any time outside the courtroom, they're going to pretend like they don't even see you. They won't talk to you. If you ask them a question like, where's the elevator, they're going to turn around and walk the other way. They're not being rude. None of them are rude guys. They're all nice fellas, but they will strictly follow the rules. So don't give it any thought if that happens. Okay, so the next thing we want to do today is we brought you in here to find out what you know about the case, how you found out about the case, and when, and whether or not you have any opinions about this case. So can you tell me when you first heard about this case?
So I don't remember for sure if this is the case that I thought that it was. But if it is, then it was back in 2014, which was quite some time ago. My memory is very fuzzy, and it was only something that I would have heard on the news or social media or something.
Okay, so back in 2014 is when it happened, January of 2014, and at that point, would you, as you said, would you have seen it on the TV news or Facebook or both?
Probably Facebook.
Okay.
Possibly both if I had looked into it more. And because of the area. From what I remember, though, I don't know if I say anything.
It's okay. Yeah,
Okay.
you go ahead and talk. This is your time.
Okay, so I'm not sure if it is the exact case, but the one that I'm thinking of happened at a cop theater, so I don't know if that's the one.
Correct. That's where this happened.
Okay. I did have opinions at the time. I don't remember a lot. I believe in carrying if you have a license too, so
Okay.
I thought self-defense made sense.
Okay,
At the time.
very good. Appreciate all of that. So tell me a little bit about what you, the facts about the case, as you remember.
I thought I remembered maybe an older man being involved. That's kind of it.
Okay. And you mentioned something about self-defense. Do you feel like you've got an opinion as you sit there right now? It's Mr. Reeves who's on trial here. Do you feel like you have an opinion whether what he did was right or wrong as you sit there right now?
The only thing that I have to go by is what jogged my memory yesterday, which was about the act happening over cell phone use or noise. And, based on that, of course, I think it's ridiculous to get so angry over. On the other hand, I believe in self-defense, so I'm not sure I don't remember who did what or what.
Okay. So you got a little bit of information and some feelings about some of the issues.
I haven't heard the last 5 minutes of what you said.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll have her maybe scoot up or push that microphone down a little bit.
You can't get up anymore, you'll fall off.
Okay.
Just speak
Oh.
up, that's all, okay?
I know. We're. Okay, so let me ask you again. I forget what I asked before. As you sit there right now, knowing what little bit you do about the case, do you have any opinions about whether Mr. Reeves was right or wrong in doing what he did?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
You said something about.
I'm not clear on who did what, so.
Okay, so what you said earlier, it sounded like you thought it was, and I'm paraphrasing, a little silly to get so angry over cell phone something, but you also believe in self-defense. So you don't know who did what, and so you don't really have much of an opinion either way.
Yeah.
And so if I told you, if you were chosen as a juror, I would instruct you at some point that the only thing you could use to make a decision on your verdict would be the information that you receive here in this courtroom.
Right.
And that was it, and you had to disregard any of your feelings or thoughts about anything else, would you be able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, you'd be able to set aside any feelings you had either way about, it doesn't sound like you really know enough to make a hard decision, but you'd be able to listen to my instructions and follow those?
Yes.
All right. Now, I don't know if I asked you, have you seen any news accounts recently?
I'm not sure. I don't remember the name that popped up on my phone yesterday, so I want to say no.
Okay.
I didn't look at it,
Okay,
which was
good.
hard. But, so I haven't seen anything that I know of.
Okay.
And also, I didn't look at it, so I don't know really what
Okay,
it
so
said.
you're not sure. Was that some sort of a news feed that
Yes.
popped up? Okay. And so to your knowledge, you haven't seen anything recently?
Right.
Okay. And do you remember ever seeing any coverage either on social media or anywhere else? Do you remember seeing a video clip of some of the events in the movie theater?
I don't remember.
Okay. All right, I'm going to let the lawyers inquire.
Check the sign, see for morning or afternoon. So good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions because as you heard, I couldn't hear.
Sorry.
So I want to make sure that what I have on paper is correct.
Okay.
And what I have on paper is the first time that the court asked you, do you have an opinion? I wrote down, you said, self-defense made sense. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
Is that the opinion that you hold now?
I'm not sure, just because I'm not clear on what happened.
Okay. Could you do me a favor? I'm going to step just a little bit closer, and if you wouldn't mind just talking a little bit louder for me, okay? Can you do that for me?
Is this better? No?
But I'm going to make it work, okay?
Okay.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That's all right. A lot of people are soft-spoken. That's fine. All right. Back in 2014, was that your opinion?
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, when you responded to the question that self-defense made sense, let's talk about your thought process today when you made that statement. It came out very quick. Self-defense made sense. What were you thinking?
So I'm not clear on my memory. But so because I don't know what happened, I don't know if it was. I'm sorry, I can't make it clear. I don't know.
Okay.
I believe in self-defense. I just I don't know what happened. So
All right. I'm trying to figure out exactly what facts you had that led you to the opinion that self-defense makes sense. Can you help me with that? What was it that you learned, that you put together, and you did your analysis the way you think, and based on your personal beliefs, you thought, well, self-defense makes sense. Are you okay? Would you like for me to stop?
just wait a second. I'm sorry.
Well, why don't we pass you for a few minutes, and we can get back to you. You want to do that?
Sorry.
It's okay. This is not how most people, do things. We have to. It's almost like you're being interrogated. And lawyers have said that to several prospective jurors, that you're sitting there under the lights and lawyers are shooting questions at you. It's not easy. We can pass you for a little bit or get through this either way.
I want to try and get through it if we can.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
All right. Don't want to sit back there and think about what's coming some more? Okay. Anything else, Mr. Martin?
Good morning.
Juror number 108. How do you like that,
Yes, sir.
that new name of yours?
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
I want you to relax. Okay. First, let me tell you, there's no right and wrong answer here. There really isn't. Okay. And, as lawyers, sometimes we ask questions in a way that maybe is too straightforward and too cut and dry. And I don't want to do that. Okay? I need you to help me
Right.
in this whole process. And to be honest with you, all we're wanting is to find out what's in that mind of yours from back 8 years ago. Think about that. How sometimes I'm thinking to myself, how ridiculous, me asking these questions. I'm asking someone to remember 8 years ago, right?
Right.
Doesn't make much sense. But we have to do it because I really cherish the responsibility that I have as a defense attorney representing Mr. Reeves. And I want to do the best job that I can possibly do for him. And so,
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this line beyond scope of what you're.
if I say anything that even makes you uncomfortable, I want you to put your hand up and say, Escobar, wait. And I'll try to rephrase that. How's that? Okay? But I'm not going to ask you any hard questions, okay? The court talked to you about a very important rule here. And you seem to me, just by me listening to you, that you're a person that follows the rules and wants to follow the rules. Am I correct with that?
Yes.
Okay. And the court indicated that in this process of a jury trial, which is so important in our system of justice, that when a juror is going to make a decision, they've got to make that decision based upon the evidence that's introduced in this trial, the testimony that comes from the stand, and that alone.
Right.
You feel pretty comfortable you can do that?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable you can do that because you're a person of principles?
Yes, and when there's a rule to be followed, especially within just this room, as you said, we can only use what we're shown here, and I can leave everything else behind.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hang tight.
How you feeling?
I'm okay.
When I was up here speaking with you, we were having a conversation, and you became overwhelmed. That's okay. Was this whole situation for you, does that sit well with you? Do you have the personality where you feel comfortable in a situation like that?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, that's just your personality. Doesn't have anything to do with the lawyers, the judge. It's just because you're in this setting, you don't feel comfortable.
Right, and I think you remind me of someone. I'm sorry.
What's that?
She
She said you remind her of someone.
Sorry.
Okay. I remind you of someone? Okay. And that's why you're emotional?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. If you were selected
Yes.
and you went back to the jury room, I wouldn't be there.
Right.
Okay? All right. So since I remind you of someone, but I wouldn't be back in the jury room, would you be able to, in that situation, with those other 5 members, discuss the testimony that occurred?
Yes.
Yeah? All right. Now let me ask you this. If you are selected, I will be in this courtroom. All right? And because I remind you of someone that is creating this emotion, and I'm going to be walking around, I'm going to be talking, you're going to have to look at me for 2 weeks. Are you going to be thinking about what is upsetting you now to the point where it's going to be so distracting you may miss something?
I am afraid that I could possibly miss some things.
Okay. I appreciate you being honest, and I apologize for making you feel that way. There's nothing I can do, but I apologize. But I appreciate your candor that over that 2-week period, because of whatever it is, and I don't really want to get into it, but you feel that you would miss some of the testimony, that you would be distracted by the fact that I would be in the
No,
courtroom.
we're in agreement if they're going to make a motion at this time.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. I apologize.
You know, I've had this situation come up once before. It was really kind of comical. I asked the jurors, you know, I think I was actually a lawyer at the time, maybe, and I said, you know, is there anything that you don't like about lawyers, or, you know, any of us that you just don't like the looks of us? And one of the jurors said, you know, that lawyer over there looks just like my ex-husband, and I could not stand to sit through this trial and look at that guy's face every day. and that, you know, that was kind of the end of that. So, you know, we all have those things, but, and I appreciate you being here and enduring all day yesterday and then today. But, you know, I think we're going to go, this might not be the trial for you. We'll go ahead and let you go today. But you've done your jury service now. Well done. You should get a summons in about a year. Shouldn't come before a year, but about a year from now, maybe we'll have a trial that we can put your work in, okay? Thank you very much for your time and attention. Do you need a letter or anything for your work?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm going to take your number and your
Thanks, take care. All right, how many more do we have left? Two? Let's see, whatever the next number is. Sweet. Okay, cool.
Okay, just a second.
Okay. Good morning, 109. Good to see you back again. Thank you.
Yes.
Were you able to abide by my instructions during the break, recess? Yeah,
Yes,
that's what
ma'am.
I'm trying to say. All right, very good. No independent research, didn't watch the news. All right, super. Another housekeeping matter I got to tell you real quick about the lawyers. The lawyers are under strict rules governing the Florida bar. And one of those rules is that they must never have any interaction with a juror or prospective juror outside the courtroom. So should you encounter any of them for any reason out in the hall, or ask them, where's the escalator, they will not talk to you. They'll act like they don't hear you, know you, see you, or anything, and they'll probably walk the other way. They're not mean. They're nice guys. They're personable, and they're not rude, but they do follow the rules, so don't give it any thought. All right, so the reason we called everybody back in one at a time was so we could find out what you know about the case, when you heard about it, how you heard about it, and whether or not you have any opinions about the events that happened. So can you tell me when you heard about this case?
Back when it happened.
Okay, back in 2014.
I'm honestly not even too familiar with when it happened. I just know it was a while ago.
Okay, yep, it was 2014.
Yeah.
So did you hear about it on the TV news or discussions with family,
I think it was,
coworkers?
word of mouth.
Okay.
Discussion with my parents, probably.
Okay, very good. That was going to be my next question. Do you suppose your parents saw it on TV and said something to you about it?
Maybe back then, yes.
Okay.
Because we don't watch too much of the news anymore, as a family.
Okay.
So back then, it was probably that or on social media, something like that.
Okay. And do you, as you sit there right now, do you feel like you've got an opinion about the case?
No.
No, okay. So when you, however you heard it back then, do you know much of the details about what happened, or can you tell me what you think you know about the events that happened?
I just knew that there was someone shot at the movie theater, and someone got killed. That was all I really knew.
All right.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't, excuse me, sound like this was a big topic of discussion at any point in your family. Is that correct?
No, not really.
You didn't really talk about it?
We knew it happened. We knew it was right down the street. I live in Lutz, so
Okay.
it was like 15 minutes from my house, and it was talked about, but not really a big, huge discussion.
Okay,
really.
kind of close to home, that sort of discussion,
Yeah.
that it happened right there.
Mhm.
Had you ever been to that movie theater before?
Yeah,
Okay.
multiple times.
And have you gone since?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And let's see, at any point, have you seen the news coverage where it shows a little video of the events that happened inside the movie theater? No, you haven't seen that. Now, how about on social media? Sometimes if something pops up on the news, a lot of people have comments about it, and they talk about it back and forth. Do you remember reading comments and feeling, oh yeah, that makes sense, or no, that's silly, anything like that?
No, ma'am.
And have you seen anything recently about it? No? Okay.
This was the first time I heard about it since
it happened?
the first time I heard about it back then in
Okay.
2014.
All right. So doesn't sound like you got a lot of information about it, and I did tell you a little bit about it yesterday, just to jog everybody's memories.
Right.
If you were chosen as a juror and I instructed you that the only thing that you can consider in coming to your verdict is what you hear in this courtroom, the information you get in this courtroom, both through the physical evidence or testimony or my instructions and the lawyer's arguments, it has to be only what you heard here, and you'd have to disregard anything that you heard or thought about previously. Would you be able to follow that instruction?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and let the lawyers inquire.
No question.
Okay. Mr. Michaels?
Morning.
All right, 2014, so you were doing the math, like 14 years old, right, 8 years ago?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, because it happened in January, so you hadn't turned 15 yet.
Right.
All right. And so you were in middle school?
Yeah, probably. It doesn't seem like that long ago, but yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Well, welcome to life, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
You blink your eyes and you're 10 years in the future.
No, I was 16.
Okay, 16.
16. Yeah. I'm 22 currently, turning 23.
Okay, you're going to be 23. I
Yeah.
got you. All right.
Yeah.
You're better
But
than
yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
So you're 16.
I was probably a freshman,
All
maybe
right.
going into my sophomore year.
In high school.
Yeah.
And so certainly as a freshman, you were aware of news and news events.
Mm-hmm.
Did your folks watch the news every night?
No,
Okay.
we've never watched the news like that, honestly.
And so in this case, did you see it on the news or strictly heard it from people?
I would say my parents. Yeah.
And what did they tell you about it? Or how did you, let me put it to you this way. How was the subject brought up? In other words, did they talk about news events often, or was this kind of something unusual that they talked to you about?
I think they brought it up just because it was something that happened right down the road. They said, like, did you know that there was a shooting at the movie theater at the Groves? I was like, no, that's crazy. And they said, honestly, that's the extent of the conversation that I really remember.
All right, so
Yeah.
basically this thing happened down the street, there was a shooting.
Right, and I might have seen like a headline or something on Facebook or something that they might have showed me real briefly, but
Because it happened close by where you lived, were you curious? Did you look anything up at all about it?
no,
Didn't go to
not back then.
All right, didn't go to the internet?
No, sir.
At any time did you do that?
No, sir.
What about when you got your jury summons? Did you look,
No, sir.
did you have any idea that that summons was going to bring you here to this case?
So, my mom and my grandmother knew that I had jury duty, and they told me that the jury summons was going on Monday for this, but I knew that my jury summons was Tuesday, so I didn't know if it was going to be for this or not, but it jogged my memory because I remembered it happening so long ago, so yeah.
So what did they,
Thought it was coincidental.
it's coincidental, so when did you talk to your mother and grandmother about your jury summons and that it might have something to do with this case?
We didn't really talk about it. I told them that I had jury duty, and then my nanny actually sent me a text message and said, "This is like going on Monday, so maybe you're gonna be there." And I mean, I didn't reply to it or anything. That was just, I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, that's weird,"
So how did
because I
your,
remember it happening.
how did your grandmother, or how did she refer to the case? You know, sometimes people call it, I'm sure she can say, State of Florida versus Curtis Reeves.
Yeah, no.
What did she say?
I don't even think she said anything about the case. She just sent the fact that they were doing the jury pool selection, like it might have been like a little article or something. But I just read the headline, like on the little thumbnail that pops up on your text. And then below that, she said something like, "This is going on Monday, so maybe it's for you." Like, exclamation point, something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
And you never talked to her directly about it?
No, sir.
Now, you've been back to the theater after this happened?
Yes, sir. A couple times.
And did you notice anything in the theater that you think might have something to do with this case at all?
No.
And when you heard there was a shooting at the movie theater, your reaction was allow something like that?
Yeah, just like you would never think something like that happens in your backyard until it does, you know? Kind of that type of reaction.
Before you got here, did you know any of the people involved?
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
All right. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Any motion?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. 109, if you would head back to the jury pool room. Chances are we're probably going to break for lunch shortly, but I'll instruct everybody. I'll let you know shortly. And just head back there and wait. Remember my instructions, no discussing the case or anything. And you'll find out pretty soon. Probably we're going to just go to lunch and then all come back together. So,
Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Yep, this way?
Yeah.
Hang on just one second, Tina. I need to take just a real quick recess. I apologize. Let's get to the next one, please. Last one. Hello, 110.
Hello.
Thank you for coming back. Were you able to abide by my instructions during the recess?
Yes.
Excellent. You didn't do any independent research or look at the news or anything? Thank you. One quick housekeeping matter. I forgot to inform everybody yesterday. One of the little things about the lawyers, that they are under very strict rules governing the Florida bar, that they cannot have any interaction with any prospective jurors or jurors outside the courtroom. So if you run into one of them in the hall, or, ask them where's the elevator, they're not going to talk to you. They're going to look like you don't even exist. So, and they'll walk away. They're not rude. They're nice guys, but they will follow the rules. So don't think anything of it. All right. So the reason we brought you in here today is because we need to find out what you know about the case, how you found out, when you found out, and whether or not you have any opinions about the events that happened. So can you tell me when you first found out about the case?
I remember hearing about it not long after it happened. I lived up in Brooksville at the time, but I worked in Tampa, so I worked at Busch Gardens at the time, so I would drive past the Cobb Theater quite frequently, so I remember hearing about it and being aware that it happened.
Okay. And at the time, when you heard about it, did you hear about it on the news or word of mouth, people talking about it? What do you remember?
I think I heard about it on the news. I remember being shocked and surprised that something like that would happen at that theater. I had never been there before, but was definitely surprised by it. I know people talked about it at work. I don't remember the conversations, but I know it was talked about at work as well.
All right. And did you see it on the news, to your recollection, on the TV news or social media news?
I don't recall specifically. I'm sure that I did, but I don't recall specifically where I heard about it.
All right. And so from the sounds of it, you might not recall any further details about if you did see it on the news, on TV or social media, did you happen to see some of the coverage included a little clip of video from the events inside the movie theater? Did you see that video?
I don't remember seeing the video.
Okay. And did you tell me a little bit about what you know about the facts of the case? I told you a little details yesterday to refresh your memory. Do you know anything beyond that you can think of?
I know a little bit. On Monday when I got home from work and called to see if I had to come into jury duty and found out that I did, my mom said that she had seen on the news that this trial was coming to a jury. So I was looking up where that was taking place to see if that would have anything to do with me, because I wasn't sure what the details were. So I did read a few things trying to figure out what courthouse it was happening at. I read some articles about the events that happened, about being on a weekday at the Cobb Theater, about there being an altercation, about popcorn being thrown, about complaints being made to the manager. I read about the case a little bit, how it had, because it was such a long time ago, having been tried or trying to first stand your ground and being denied and then having to come back, and COVID delays and things of that nature. And that is kind of why it is
Okay.
coming up now, so many years later.
Okay, very good. And that's certainly something understandable under the circumstances. If I told you, if I instructed you that, okay, I was, you good?
Yeah.
Okay. It